So I'm gonna do a quick video to teach y'all how to remove something from your credit. I read a book several years ago that basically teaches us as consumers how to protect ourselves against identity fraud. So in the book it details letters on exactly how to protect yourself against identity fraud. So I'm going to just pull up one of those letters and kind of give you guys an overview of what the letter is saying, what it details, and how you can protect yourself as a consumer. So let me go here to the computer and pull up one of the letters really quick, and I will actually show you some of the laws that protect you. Say, for instance, um, if you were to look at this one letter, it says, for the purposes of 15 USC 1692 ETSEQ, this notice has the same effect as a dispute to the validity of the alleged debt and the dispute of the validity of your claims. So I'm gonna just go ahead and Google this 15 USC 1692 to show you exactly what that law is and what it means. So if we go over to Google and we type that in, it's a U.S. Code, 15 U.S. Code 1692, Congressional Findings and Declaration of Purpose. It reads, there is an abundant evidence of the use of abuse, deceptive, and unfair debt collection practices by many debt collectors. So you can see right there from the first sentence in this congressional finding and declaration of purpose that debt collectors use a lot of abusive, deceptive, and unfair debt collection practices. If we continue reading, it says abusive debt collection practices contribute to the number of personal bankruptcies, to marital instability, to the loss of jobs, and to invasions of individual privacy. Existing laws and procedures for redressing these injuries are inadequate to protect consumers. Now, mind you, this is something you can Google. This is right off of the Cornell.edu website. This is a Cornell Law School website that I'm reading this off of. And this has all been created by our Congress and our government to protect us against debt collectors, to make sure that we don't fall into these traps. So if you know the law, you can protect yourself, you can protect your credit. And if you can protect your credit, then you can protect your finances and eventually get to where we're trying to be, which is being wealthy and having the freedom to be able to do the things we want to do every day without working a regular 9 to 5. So, available non-abusive collection methods means other than misrepresentation or other abusive debt collection practices are available for effective collections of debts. Interstate commerce. Abusive debt collection practices are carried on to a substantial extent in interstate commerce and through means and instrumentalities of such commerce, even where abusive debt collection practices are purely straight in character. They nevertheless directly affect interstate commerce. So it just goes on to talk about how they take advantage of this. Purposes. It is the purpose of this subchapter to eliminate abusive debt collection practices by debt collectors, to ensure that those debt collectors who refrain from using abusive debt collection practices are not completely disadvantaged, and to promote consistent state action to protect consumers against debt collection abuses. And that's it. That was the 15 USC Code 1692. And that was Congressional Findings and Declaration of Purpose. So if we go back over here to this letter, as I said, I actually got that law out of a book that I had read some years back. And that's something that they detailed in one of the letters that you will be sending to the debt collection companies, basically detailing to them saying that they're breaking the law. So I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of what this letter would look like. At the very top, you would have the address. At the very top, you would have the date, and then your name, your address, and then underneath that, you would have the name of the company that is trying to collect a debt from you. And underneath that, you would have their address and the account number, the original account number if you have it, and then if not, or in addition to the account number that comes from the creditor. Most times, say for instance, you had a bank account with Bank of America. If Bank of America charges off that account for whatever reason, and they send it to a debt collector, say ABC Monitoring or some debt collection company that you never heard of before, you never signed any contract with, you never had any business dealings with, there's going to be an account number that's going to be created with their company as well. So going back to the letter, this is how it reads. To whom it may concern, this letter is regarding account number which you claim I owe $519.54. This is a real letter that I created for myself. This is a formal notice that your claim is disputed. I'm requesting validation made pursuant to the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. Please note that I'm requesting validation that is competent evidence bearing my signature, showing that I have or ever had some contractual obligation to pay. That right there in the first sentence says a lot. It's basically saying that, can you prove to me that I have ever had business dealings with your company? Which they cannot, because you never signed any contract with them and you never had any business dealings with them. You don't even know who they are. And it continues to read, please also be aware that any negative mark found on my credit reports, including Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, from your company or any company that you represent for a debt that I do not owe, is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Now, this Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, let's just go ahead and Google that, because I want to show you guys what that really means and what exactly that's saying. So we'll go back over to Google, we'll type that in, and that will pull up. And luckily for us, Google has this new AI feature, so it kind of just summed it up for us. It says the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or the FDCPA, is a federal law that protects consumers from unfair, deceptive, and abusive debt collection practices. Going back to what we read before. The FDCPA became effective in March 1978 and is Title 13 of the Consumer Credit Protection Act. It applies to debt incurred by a consumer for personal, family, or household purposes, but not to corporate debt or debt owed for business or agricultural purposes. Okay? It also says the FDCPA prohibits debt collectors from, now it's going to break it down for you, listen to this closely, contacting debtors at unusual times or places. So if they're calling you outside of 9 p.m., if they're calling you outside of business hours, trying to collect money, that right there is already illegal. It also says making repeated phone calls. If they're calling you more than once or calling you multiple times a week, that's illegal. It also says harassing, oppressing, or abusive consumers. That's illegal. Misrepresenting the nature of debt, including the amount owed. That's illegal. So most bill collectors have already broken all four of those. Because they call you and they ask you a bunch of questions, and they say that you owe money that you don't really owe, and they offer to work these deals out with you where you can pay, let's just say if it's $300, they'll say, okay, well, instead of charging you the $300, we'll charge you $200, and then we'll also put you in installment payments. Can we just get an installment payment from you? That's the biggest trap right there. You don't want to ever fall into that, because what you do is if you do ever send them an installment payment, now you have entered a contractual agreement with this company. And now they do have the right by law to collect that money from you, but you did that to yourself, not them. So this is why it's important for us to understand the law and know the law, especially when it comes to our finances. It also says here, falsely claiming to be an attorney, threatening legal action that is not intended, threatening to have the debtor arrested, threatening to do things that are illegal or that the debt collector has no intention of doing, revealing the existence of debts to others. Okay, so all of these things here are illegal, and that's according to the FDCPA. The FDCPA also protects reputable debt collectors from unfair competition and encourages states to take action to protect consumers from debt collection abuses. All right. Now, like I said, this is all coming right off of government websites. And I can actually click on the FTC.gov. This is a government website. This is from the Federal Trade Commission, protecting America's consumers. That's right at the very top of the website. That's what it says. Now, it says Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And I'm going to read this off to you so that you'll understand exactly what it's saying. It says Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, as amended by Public Law 111-203, Title X, 124, Stat 2092. This was 2010. As a public service, the staff of the Federal Trade Commission has prepared the following complete text of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, 1692 through 1692P. Please note that the format of the text that the text differs in minor ways from the U.S. Code and West U.S. Code and noted. For example, this version uses FDCPA sections numbers in the heading. In addition, the relevant U.S. Code citation is included with each section heading. Basically, it's explaining to you how they wrote it. Okay, let's just scroll down a little bit. You can see the table of contents. Short title. That's 801. 802 is congressional findings and declaration of purposes. 803 is definitions. 804 is acquisition of location information. 805 is communication in connection with debt collection. Let's just kind of scroll down to multiple debts, legal actions, furnishing. Let's see. Reports to Congress by Bureau, views of federal agencies, exemption of state regulations, exemption for certain bad check enforcement programs operated by private entities, and effective date. Okay. So this is basically saying some of the same things that we already read because, like I said, it was a Google AI that just pulled information from various websites, and this is exactly what I just read. I'm looking through it now, so I'm not gonna really spend the time to read that again. But if you like, you're more than welcome to check out this website. It's ftc.gov. And it has all these, and I'll be putting these links in the video description as well if you want to go check out this information just for yourself. It's always good to, like we say in church, study to show thyself approved. Gotta learn for yourself, right? Gotta go back and check, gotta fact check. So, if we go back over to the letter that I had written before, or the letter that was drafted in this book that I had read. And this is where I left off. I'm just going to kind of backtrack just a little bit. It says, please be aware that any negative mark found in my credit reports, including Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax from your company, or any company that you represent for a debt that I do not owe, is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Therefore, I cannot validate the debt. You must request that all credit reporting agencies delete the entry. That's what's important right there. This is what you're sending a letter directly to these creditors, these debt collectors, telling them, number one, they've broken the law, and number two, they must take steps to backtrack on what they've done. Otherwise, you're going to take action. And this is the action that we're going to be taking. So it says here, pending the outcome of my investigation of any evidence that you submit, you are instructed to take no action that could be detrimental to any of my credit reports. Failure to respond within 30 days of receipt of this certified letter will result in small claims legal action against your company at my local venue. I will be seeking a minimum of $5,000 in damages for, number one, defamation, number two, negligent and ineligible of identity fraud, and number three, violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, including but not limited to Section 807-8. And you will be required to appear in a court venue local to me in order to formally defend yourself. And I don't want to skip past that. I want to just back up just a little bit and look at what exactly this letter is saying. It says, Please be aware that any negative mark found on my credit reports, including these are the three different credit bureaus, if you didn't know: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And a lot of times, these three different credit unions will have different scores based upon what information is reported to them. Okay? So, for instance, from the company in any company that you represent for a debt that I don't owe is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Therefore, I cannot validate the debt. You must request that all credit reporting agencies delete the entry, okay? So we can kind of really just go and look that up because, for instance, if we're telling this company that they've done something wrong, we have the proof because we just looked at it on the website. We actually looked at the actual proof that tells us that they're breaking the law. Now we can send them this letter, let them know that they need to reverse this. Now, I've already done this for you guys. I've already tested it out. I read the book. I tested it out. There's plenty of testimonials on this stuff. It works. It's law. And companies, what they will do is they will remove this stuff from your credit if you are persistent about it. Because there's more than one letter that you send these companies if they don't take action, from the first letter. Sometimes they get the letter and they blow it off just to see how serious you're gonna be, how persistent you're gonna be. I've had to send a couple letters. The first time I actually sent out letters, I sent out about 10 certified letters to 10 different companies. And one of those companies actually just took it off. The first letter that they received, it was removed from my credit. So, like I said, sometimes you really don't have to do too much. You just gotta take a little action, and that's really what I'm trying to show you guys today. So for now, I think that's gonna be pretty much all I kind of wanted to bring to you guys. Like I said, I'm gonna post some of this information in the description so you can kind of just go and see some of these links and read some of these laws for yourself. But I appreciate y'all stopping through to watch this video today. If you got any questions or anything you want to ask me, just put it in the comments and I'll do my best to reply as quick as possible. All right, y'all have a great day.